In my opinion, it has never been harder to make a name for yourself as a reptile breeding business than it is right now in 2024. There seems to be a sea of people who are posting to YouTube, posting to Instagram, and with so many different people making such amazing and sometimes not amazing reptile content, it can be really, really hard to break into that kind of sphere. But personally, if you want to have a successful reptile breeding business, I think that it is absolutely imperative that you are able to break through the noise. So for this week's video, we want to go over the 7 different secrets that are required in order to establish a strong name in the reptile breeding hobby. So my name's Steven with Leviathan Snakes, and let's jump in it. Before we jump into the video, we have to go through and figure out who won from last week's giveaway, where RGI is giving away one of their 2-day shed tests. Now, while we are going to pick one winner this week right now, you can still sign up, still get a chance to win one of the 2-day shed tests. But in order to do so, you have to be following the channel, and later on in this video, we're gonna give you another comment that you can leave below on this exact video in order to enter. So next week, when we post next week's video, that will reveal the second winner. But for right now, we need to go through on my phone and figure out who won from last week. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna paste the YouTube link. And when we went through this, absolutely huge thanks to everybody who commented. And wow, there was so many comments. There was more than 200 comments of people who had entered the drawing. We are so freaking excited. A lot of people had the comment varied slightly when they put it down. Maybe it would be like TWO shed tests with RGI, and other people would say just the number 2. And then a third group of people might say something that was just really, really nice, really, really kind, really, really supportive, and then they would end it with 2-day shed tests with RGI. So the way that we're gonna do this is that I have put in the posts URL from last week right now, and I'm gonna fetch all of the comments from it. And I'm gonna go with anything goes on the comments, but I'm not gonna allow duplicates. And as long as whatever comment comes up does contain 2-day shed tests with RGI, that will be the winner. But just in case a comment comes up and it doesn't say that in there, we're gonna redraw again. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit continue. We're gonna see what ends up happening. They're loading the comments. It looks like that there is 164 unique comments. So I'm gonna hit pick a winner, and the winner is ODGC Exotics. Our Dad's Gone Crazy. Okay, it took me a while to see the handle, but Our Dad's Gone Crazy, you have won the first of the 2-day shed tests with RGI. So in order to claim it, you need to leave a comment on this video saying that you've seen this. And then if you can head over to Instagram or shoot us an email with your address, we're going to send you a special card that kind of lets you help fill out your information. And we're gonna put a specific code in the order ID so that way RGI knows that you are one of the winners. Huge congratulations. And again, anybody else who's still watching, you still have a chance to win because we're gonna be giving away 2 more shed tests over the next weeks. So what you gotta do, follow the channel, and later on in this video, we're gonna tell you what comment to put. So now that we have all that out of the way, let's jump in it. The first thing that we want to talk about when it comes to the secrets of establishing a name in the reptile breeding hobby is that it is absolutely imperative that you understand what your motivation actually is. And for most people who are trying to start a reptile business, whether that is breeding or through some other aspect in the reptile hobby, I think that this motivation often is to push your brand out to a potential audience who might want to buy from you in the future, to establish trust and hopefully generate leads so that way when you have something to sell, you have people who are waiting to buy specifically from you. And I think that this motivation is super, super critical, and it's probably the most important factor that we are going to talk about right now. On social media, when you are in the social media world and you're looking at everybody in the reptile sphere, it is very, very likely that you will come across some content that goes absolutely viral. It has millions of views, there's tons of likes, there's tons of comments, but depending on the specific type of content that went viral, it might not result in any meaningful sales for the breeder or for the business that posted it. And I think that you can see this quite a bit when you are looking at kind of general generic reptile content, or maybe just general generic animal content, because there are some things that are really, really interesting to the general public, but when it comes to the reptile hobby, the people who are most likely to buy a snake or a reptile or anything like this may not find the exact same types of things really, really interesting, and depending on exactly what it is, it might actually turn that potential customer off from buying from the brand that posted whatever that viral content was. I think that probably the most common example that we see this happening with are live feeding videos, and it is, I'm not going to really get into the merits for or against it, but specifically when it comes to trying to find an audience who are going to buy your snakes. If you are trying to sell to other breeders and you're producing $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 plus animals, and the vast majority of your presence online has been generated through live feeding videos, most other breeders, who are the people who would most likely want to buy a $3,000 snake, tend to frown upon live feeding videos because they think that it looks bad for the hobby overall. So while an account might potentially get thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even 1 million followers primarily focused on live feeding videos, the people who are following that are probably not people who are really deep into the reptile hobby, and even if they might want to buy a reptile, they're probably not willing to spend $5,000 on an individual animal. So in this specific situation is, if your ultimate motivation is to sell animals, finding content that appeals to the people who are most likely wanting to buy from you is going to be absolutely critical. And that is a perfect lead-in into the second thing that we're going to talk about, and that is identify who your target audience is. So we talk about it in several different videos, that depending on the segment of the market that you are looking at, different pieces of content are going to appeal to them. If you are selling $200 absolutely beautiful bananas, but all of your content is about establishing a reptile business, the animals that you have available don't really appeal to the audience that you are attracting, which are probably other breeders or people who are just starting to take their reptile breeding business really, really seriously. So this specific mismatch can create a situation where you have some amazing followers, some amazing engagement on social media, and you have a pretty good name, but none of those people want to buy anything from you because you don't really have anything that fits their needs. So instead, in my opinion, is if you are going to be primarily selling pets, I think it's a good idea to make content and try to appeal to people who want to buy their first ball python or their first reptile or something like this. So these are going to be care guide videos, these are going to be enclosure setup videos, these are going to be the pros and cons of specific species. And I think all of this information is going to really, really appeal to that pet market. But again, flip side, if you are making animals that are primarily going to be bought by breeders, care guide videos are probably not going to really appeal to other reptile breeders because for the most part, they probably already know all of that information, the basic husbandry, otherwise they wouldn't be successful in breeding their own animals. This concept of providing value to your specific target audience is point number 3 that we want to talk about. And it's just that, is when you are making content, when you're trying to make a name for yourself, you really, really, really need to find a way to provide value to your customers, or in this specific situation, value to your audience. Because if you make a post that says, please buy my snake, that doesn't really add any value to the community. It doesn't really add anything to anybody who sees it except for a way to advertise yourself. And if this is all you are doing time and time again, people are probably not even going to remember you. And if they do remember you, they're going to think that you are just simply spamming them, trying to get them to buy your animals. Now, instead of just trying to make advertisements for your business, if you find ways that you can answer questions through an educational kind of manner for your target audience, this is probably my favorite way that you can provide value to your target audience. So our specific target market are newer breeders who are just now trying to take it really, really seriously. So a lot of our content kind of focuses on the topics that aren't talked about a whole lot in the reptile hobby, with the idea being that hopefully we are able to teach something that our target audience hadn't known about before, and because of that, it feels like that they have gotten something valuable from us with absolutely no strings attached. So hopefully down the road, if we happen to have an animal that fits their projects and their needs and it's within their price range, that they may choose to support us because of all of the hopefully educational value that we've already given them in the past. So this is one of the biggest reasons why I think it's so important to understand what is your motivation, who is your target audience, because once you know those two things, it is going to be so much easier to provide content to them that will be valuable, because if you don't know those two things and you're just making videos just willy-nilly, it's very likely that you will create something that might do well, but it doesn't actually further your business's goals. And while education is personally my favorite form of value that you can bring an audience, there are completely other different ways that you can provide value. There is entertainment value, and simply being funny can be really cool, and it can 100% help your content, help your business succeed. In addition to entertainment, there's relatability. If people think that you are like them, it's very likely that they will form a connection with you because you're kind of like-minded souls. In addition to relatability, there's also conflict, which helps provide value, and this is conflict both in the idea of going into the Facebook comments and eating popcorn, but also in the idea of highlighting issues within the community or issues that other people might want to avoid, and by being able to give warnings to people, this also provides value. But I personally think that conflict can be really tricky, and it can very easily turn into a situation where people view that that person who's always posting about conflict is just kind of like stirring crap within the reptile hobby. Quick interruption because we need to talk about our 5,000 follower giveaway that is being sponsored by Rare Genetics Incorporated. So last week we posted the first video for this, where we are going to be giving away a 2-day shed test, and during that video we had announced that RGI has added Sunset, Puzzle, and Pied to the 2-day fast shed tests. So the thing that we need to announce right now is that they have added even more morphs to the 2-day shed tests with Rare Genetics Incorporated. So right now, all of the different morphs that you could potentially get tested for with Rare Genetics Incorporated are Pied, Clown, Desert Ghost, Puzzle, Sunset, VPI Xanthic, and now G-Stripe, Hypo, Asphalt, and Gravel, and we are so freaking excited. So Rare Genetics Incorporated has the most amount of tests in the entire space, but with these specific tests, if you send in your shed for one of these genes, they will guarantee that they get it back to you within 2 business days of receiving the test. And we are so freaking excited to be partnered with RGI. So as part of our 5,000 follower giveaway and to promote the tests, we are doing another giveaway for these shed tests this week. But for this week, instead of commenting 2-day shed tests with RGI, simply comment fast shed tests with RGI. And if you put that comment on this video down below, next week's video will announce another winner. So we hope you guys enjoy it, and we are so freaking excited. Thank you again so much for getting us so close to 5,000 followers. With those first 3, I think that they form kind of the bedrock of no matter what you do, even if it's not reptile hobby, just anything on social media, that is going to be absolutely necessary in order to establish a name for yourself. If you cannot do those first 3, none of these other things matter, because when people do find out who you are, when they do watch your videos, when they do engage with you, if you are not bringing value to your specific target market, none of it matters. So we're going to kind of transition into the next set on this, and with item number 4 that we want to talk about is brand positioning. So brand positioning, realistically, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into this, but this is aligning your business's brand identity with that target customer, that target market, so that way it, 1, stands out from everybody else in that sphere, and 2, it resonates with them in some sort of positive light. So if you are specifically trying to sell to pet owners, maybe people who've never owned a ball python before, and you have very, very dark color themes, you have skulls, and it's pretty edgy and stuff like this, this can be a bit intimidating to people who are not part of the reptile hobby overall. They are going to be afraid that if they come up and talk to you and they say the wrong thing, if they ask the wrong question, or if they just simply don't know something because they're not part of the reptile hobby right now, that you may not be warm and welcoming to them, and therefore they might be intimidated of working with a brand like that. But instead, if you make a brand that's, again, focused on new pet owners, and your color scheme is very bright and warm, and you're very friendly and welcoming in your tone as you're both talking to people, posting online, that is going to go a long way with that specific market. So when it comes to your brand positioning, not only is it a way to differentiate yourself from everybody else in the hobby, it is also a way to signal to your target audience that you are a specific brand built for them. Number 5 is raising awareness for your brand. So let's say that you have amazing content. Maybe you got a YouTube channel, you're perfectly aligned with your target market, and you are on point. So at this point, it is absolutely critical that you get the word out about yourself. And realistically, based off of the way that social media algorithms work, just posting your own content probably isn't going to be enough to really get people to start recognizing you. Instead, what I think is absolutely necessary is that you have to become an active part of the community. So if you're going into other people's lives and you are being very, very active in the chat, if you're commenting on other people's pictures, if you're commenting on other people's videos, these are going to be the first steps that are necessary. So that way, as people keep seeing your logo over and over and over again, it will be very, very likely that if they end up seeing your video and they remember that they've talked to you in a chat before, they may watch the video just to support you because in this specific situation, they kind of know you already. So I think that when you are doing your awareness for your brand name, brand identity, it is absolutely imperative that you are active in the community and not waiting for the community to be active with you. Number 6 is engagement, and this kind of ties into the awareness piece, but engagement is that when you do post content, you don't want people to think that you are aloof and you're standing apart from the community as a whole. Instead, you want people to know that if they comment on your post, if they comment to your video, if they send you a direct message, that you personally are going to be interacting with them, because people form connections with brands that they are able to interact with. And because we're all pretty much ball python breeders or reptile breeders, when we say brands, really it's individual people, because for the most part, there's not any huge companies in the reptile space. So when they say Leviathan snakes, they probably mean Courtney and Steven, because that's us. That's what they think of when they think of our brand. They're not necessarily thinking of Leviathan snakes in the same way that they think of Walmart. The last thing that we need to talk about in order to establish a name for yourself is your reputation. And all of these things that we've discussed so far factor into your reputation, but specifically what I mean on this item is that what are people saying about you when you are not around? Because if you can get people talking about you when you're not there and they're saying positive things that align with your brand's values, and they are potentially going to continually increase the prestige of your brand, that is the last item that you need in order to really establish yourself in the reptile breeding hobby. You can have absolutely amazing social media content, you can get a ton of followers, but if nobody ever actually talks about you, people aren't really going to remember you. And if the things that they say aren't really helping your business, none of the other efforts that you are putting in are really worth it, because if every single time your name comes up and people are always warning others to stay away from you, none of it matters. So overall, we think that it is really difficult to establish yourself in the reptile breeding hobby, but it is possible. And if you are deliberate, smart, and strategic with how you go about it, maybe 3, 5, 10 years from now, your brand might be one of the household names in the reptile breeding hobby. We hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment to enter the giveaway. Make sure you're following the channel, and we will see you next week.